We are still talking about the old mills in Hempfield Township, and this time we're going to be looking at some of the mills out along Brush Creek, which runs out toward the west of Greensburg. And what we're seeing here are two things very closely related to the old mills. This is the water wheel from an old overshot water wheel. The water comes in at the top and fills up these buckets, and they provide a lot of weight and turn that wheel around. As a matter of fact, water weighs 62.4 pounds per cubic foot, so you have a lot of weight there that gravity is pulling down and turns that wheel. Now, you can stall a mill, but they do have a good bit of power. The guy on the right over here is sharpening a millstone. Now, this is something I've actually done, and I can tell you it is really hard work, because that is not just normal stone, that's flint. A lot of it is flint that's been imported from France, and it's extremely difficult to work with. And every so often you have to take the top stone off and clean out those grooves. You have to, actually you're taking out flint in some cases, because the stone does get worn down. And so you open those grooves, you clean them up, you deepen them so that the flour, once it's made, can be transmitted out toward the outside of the wheel and fall down into a chute. We are here looking at Brush Creek. This is an old map from the 1850s. This line here is the old turnpike. The turnpike going through Greensburg. This is Greensburg here. This shows Ludwig up here. And north is to the top, south is down here, east and west, and Brush Creek. And at this area here, out around here, there was once an old mill run by Christian Radabaugh, and as early as 1795, he sold that mill to Ludwig Otterman, and the Ottermans ran it, and it was just one of a number of mills on Brush Creek. There was the old Smith mill out there, which was in 1828 up for sale, and there was the Agnew mill out along here. And if you ever go out Route 30, you'll find the Agnew Road, which went down to where the Agnews had a mill. There was Smales. Smales had a mill out here, as did the Klingensmiths. And I probably missed a few. This is the old township, a very old and rather crude map. And just a note to tell you that this part of the township is no longer there. It's been taken out to give to Penn Township when it was created in 1855. These funny little things are indicating the old mills. That was probably the Radabaugh and Otterman mill, and Altman's mill down here, Meckling's mill. There was a mill over here called Rice's, and this positions Hannahstown and Greensburg. This is a list I made from the courthouse. I went to the courthouse and got the old township records, Hempfield Township, just to see how many mills there were. In 1802, there were 15 mills running in the township. By 1808, there were 21 mills running in the township. 1814, we went back a bit to 19. 1823, 20 mills. 1829, 22 mills, and so on. You can see the numbers. And if you look at these names, you may find some of your ancestors among them. Many of these are the ancestors of people alive today. I might mention the widow Klingensmith. And it's very unusual to see a woman running a mill. And the reason she was a widow was because her husband Philip was killed in an Indian raid some years before that. This is 1802. tax records showing Widow Klingensmith running a mill out there. And we'll see a map that shows where it was. Widow Klingensmith was in 1808. It shows up as Agnes Klingensmith. They have her name. And then eventually the boys took the mill over. You see Philip Klingensmith running it. And if you look at these names, you'll find a lot of them that these people are still around. The painters, the millers, and so on. And this is an old Currier and Ives print from the late 1800s, showing that by that time there was a kind of nostalgia that had developed about the mills, because they weren't just places where work was done, they were social meeting places. People gathered together there when they went there to get their grain ground, when they went there to get their timber sawed. And there were at times social events. I know in my own family, the O'Hara mills up in Cambria County, I know in the old days they had, at times there, they would have barn dances, they would have picnics at the mill for people all around. And they were well known. The mills sometimes became the center of a community. I mean, a little town would sometimes grow up around there. Now, we're looking at John Smale. John Smale was the son of Peter and Sophia Smale, who had built the mill, a sawmill, which sits where Jeanette now sits. It was on Brush Creek. And on that, at that mill, John Smale was born, and he lived there all of his life and had, I think, about 13 children by two wives. John was a captain in the Brush Creek militia. And they not just had a mill there, they had a sawmill, and they had several stills out there. This lets you see where the Smales mill was. It was right along Brush Creek. This green or blue line is Brush Creek. This is Jeanette over here. This is Grapeville. This is 130 coming in from Greensburg. And out here is the, shows where the Klingensmith's mill was, out here. And in the middle here was a salt works, which is something we will talk about at another time. And I think it's time to shut this down and say so long until next time.